Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, May 16th, 2026, and you are tuning in to the weekly SITREP. Hey, if you're new here, this is where we track logistical realities, preparedness updates, and data-driven homesteading strategies that you need to keep your family self-sufficient, secure, and ahead of the curve. So we've got a packed show for you today. We are breaking down three critical news updates affecting your food supply and regional resilience in our first segment. And then we're opening up the radio room for the comms check to answer something happening on. So if you are watching, make sure to type hi in the chat below to make sure everything is working good. And let me know where you're tuning in from, and let's get right into the briefing. So first up, we need to look at macro level logistics. So because the global supply chain is showing deep structural fractures this month, mid-May data reveals that transits through the Suez and Panama canals have dropped by over 40%. And because of the ongoing geopolitical conflicts, massive cargo lines are permanently rerouting around Africa homesteaders. Well, this isn't just about a single point of failure anymore. It's about the cumulative delay effect. These detours are adding 10 to 14 days to standard transit times, and wait times at alternative shipping hubs have climbed over 36 hours. So as you can see here, this is from a website called Freight Amigo. So it covers a lot about freight travel, including shipping on container ships. And so they talked on this article. This is from April 13th, so it's about a month ago, but it's only gotten worse from then. So up here it lists average wait time in Africa up to 15 days, and the percentage of ports affected is high. And it's also a big deal in Asia and the Middle East, where the ports affected are severe in the key hubs, and up to a 20 to 36 hour 20 to 36 day wait. Now, it looks better in Europe and still even better in the Americas here. And it goes on to talk about a lot of different things and just wait times increasing in general. But on top of that, emergency conflict surcharges are tacking on an extra $2,000 to $4,000 per container. Yes, that is extra money that the companies are charging just because there's a conflict in the Middle East. Now, when freight costs double and transit times stretch by weeks, it hits your local shelves in two ways: availability lag and rapid cost inflation. If you rely on imported mechanical components, solar inverter parts, or specialized farm equipment, your lead times just got longer. The action step here is simple. Stop relying on just-in-time delivery for your critical infrastructure. If you need replacement parts for your tractor, irrigation systems, or off-grid power setups for the fall, order them now. Do not wait for these shelves to go bare. There's also one other article I wanted to talk here, and it was on Ground News, thankfully, which is our sponsor today. We'll talk about them in a second. And this is about the possibility of a super El Nino. To be honest, it's about like movements of weather in the oceans and stuff, and it affects the weather we get here, El Nino or La Nina, depending on if it's wet or dry. I believe El Nino is super wet, and so they're warning of this super wet summer or spring, fall season, I would assume, and it could cause a global wave of extreme weather. And so it says here, extreme weather including heavy rainfall, droughts, and heat waves in different regions. So that's something to keep in mind, that it's going to could potentially cause issues to our food supply as well because of this weather pattern. Now, I will say here, we also got this from Ground News, which is a sponsor of our video. They are awesome. You can really tell the difference between factual stories or ones that might not be, and where the stories are coming from and which way they lean, left or right. So if we take a moment here to thank them with their ad.
The news is divided. Ground News puts it back together, so you can see how many sources are reporting on any breaking story, where they fall on the political spectrum, how reliable they are, and who owns them. Compare headlines and read full articles to see which details are prioritized, exaggerated, or left out entirely. Because the more we understand the media, the more we'll understand each other. Visit ground.news to learn more.
All right. So thank you to Ground News. We appreciate it. If you're interested in subscribing to them, we do have a link in the description on your respective platform. So on to story 2, the 2026 food shortage warnings and prepping sentiment. So our second story ties right into those supply chain kinks. We are seeing a massive wave of food shortage warnings and price squeeze alerts hitting the wire for the second quarter of 2026. Now, experts are warning that the cost to serve for major logistics networks is up nearly 40% across the board, which is compressing grocery manufacturing margins to a breaking point as well. And what's fascinating right now in the is the shift in public response. We aren't seeing the frantic toilet paper hoarding panic buying of years past. Instead, the data shows a massive rise in what's being called stealth prepping. Millions of families are quietly building up deep pantries, and millions more are buying just 1 or 2 long-term freeze-dried items or extra canned goods every single time that they go to the store to pace out the time when for inflation hits. And for us, this is a validation of the lifestyle, but it's also a warning. As more people quietly absorb the commercial inventory to build their home stores, the margin for error on supermarket shelves is getting thinner. If you have your backyard garden running, double down on your seed saving protocols this season. If your deep pantry is already set, turn your focus towards rational security and make sure you're eating what you store and storing what you eat, because grocery prices are expected to remain highly volatile throughout the summer. And so we wanted to kind of show this here with an article here from the World Food Program. So I always want to show you these articles to make you understand that I'm not just making this stuff up. But as you can see here, global disruptions to supply chains are driving tomorrow's hunger crisis. It goes into a lot of depth about why, stuff we talked about already, and everything. So it is really going to cause an issue. Now, the other thing that is going to cause an issue here is fertilizer prices. We've talked about fertilizer price increases on this channel before and on the SITREP, and that's going to continue to happen. So this article, yes, is from March, but it is still continuing to affect everything. And so it's said that it's going to cause, because the fertilizer prices have gone up, it's going to cause food prices to go up 12 to 18% by the end of the year. And it's only going to get worse because of what's on screen here. The Strait of Hormuz, right? And all of the volatility that's going on out there. And add to it like Ukraine and everything else that's going on in the world. There's going to be some problems. And so we just need to be prepared and be ready just in case. So on to story 3, and that is the expanding U.S. drought footprint. So 1 second here. Sorry about that. Let's look at the climate and agricultural baseline. So the mid-May U.S. drought monitor data was just released, and it shows over 61% of the lower 48 are officially experiencing drought conditions right now, as you can see on this map here. Let's see if we can zoom in. Nope, I want to zoom in. There we go. So this is an expansion over last month, which is affecting more than 153 million people. And while the West Coast has seen some temporary relief, like here in California where we're at, the levels reservoir levels due to late spring rain runoff, the snowpack, our natural frozen reservoir is essentially gone for the season. So meanwhile, severe drought categories are actively expanding through parts of the Midwest, the Northwest, and the Mid-Atlantic regions. So when 47 out of 45 states are dealing with moderate drought or worse, it creates a massive strain on commercial livestock, feed production, and regional municipal water tables. And this is exactly why we emphasize water security on this channel. As you can see here, this is, let's see if we can do 4-week change here, and you can see how it is getting a little bit worse here, especially through the Appalachias and the Sierra Nevadas here. Thankfully, California has, gotten a little bit out of it, right? But we're not completely. So droughts and South Leak. Yep. So you can see here, I believe the green means it's improved. Yep, improved, right? So green means it's gotten better. So in the south and kind of in like Wyoming area, Texas, it's gotten better over the last week. But overall, like through the Appalachians, the northern parts of the U.S., it's gotten worse. And the same thing here. That's what the green means here, if I didn't explain that earlier. Yellow means it's getting worse. Green means it's getting better. So just things to think about. The other part here is the story from Ground News about this story is that it's going to affect water supply and food prices. That's the bottom line, right? If the water coming down from the sky from God himself, if it's not coming, we're going to have less water in our underground reservoirs. We're not going to be able to pump as much out. We're not going to have as much runoff, and all sorts of things. So it could spark a lot of issues with food prices and water supply, right? And it probably will. The other thing we got to think about is a wildfire risk, right? And so let me bring up here this app. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. This is called Watch Duty. Let me bring this up here. And this is awesome. This app is great. So it not only comes in, it's loading up right now. It not only comes in a web version, but it also has a iPhone version, which is what I use specifically. So I'm not going to do that this time, but it's great because you can zoom in and you can see where the wildfires are at mainly. And you can see, wow, holy cow, look at this. Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas. Anywho, sorry. So let's go into near my old stomping grounds, Portales and Clovis down here. I was in the Air Force there. So we can go here and select like, oh, look at this land fire. Maybe you live down the road here. All you got to do is click it. And same thing in the app, right? And it does the same thing. It tells you how many acres it is, how well contained it is. So it's off on the right here. There you go. And it'll tell you all sorts of things about the about notices from people if there's evacuations, all that kind of stuff. Also, if you do zoom in, and this one is not gonna do it. No. On a lot of them, it will give you like a ring of their active fire area. And it might be a phone app thing. I'm not sure. But it also gives you shelters, which are super important, right? So if you need someplace to go, you have that here readily available. So I highly recommend you guys download Watch Duty, WATCHDUTY, so you can help track any wildfire dangers in your area, because that could be a huge problem as we start coming in with less water and as it starts getting hotter for summer. And also, if you haven't audited your rainwater catchment systems, your well pump backup power systems, or your livestock watering contingencies, I can't speak today, sorry. This weekend is your deadline. Water is the ultimate single point of failure on any homestead. So, with that being said, let's open up the radio room for the comps check. All right, so this segment is where I answer your questions from the community about how we run things on our homestead, gardening, prepping, anything like that. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments on your respective platforms. If it's live, I'll answer them right now or in the rest of the show. And if it's afterwards, I promise I will come back and answer them after the fact. 1 second. We have a Great Pyrenees who likes to bark at her own shadow. So sorry. So let's see what came in today through the digital mailbag. So nothing on the stream, but I did get a few questions through videos and stuff like that. And one comes from YouTube, and they asked, so with the summer temperatures starting to climb, how are you modifying your flock management? Any specific advice for keeping layers productive when it gets hot? Yeah, that's actually like a really good question. So heat stress is a silent killer for chickens, and it drops egg production faster than almost anything else. Our main priority right now that we do is ventilation and water management. So we ensure our coops have cross breeze access, so things where you can get breeze through it. So openings on both sides. You got shade cloth or coverings over things so they have a place they can get into the shade. And then we also have fans, and this is going to be one of my huge suggestions. So what that is these guys right here. These are attic fans, theoretically, but we have one of these on our coop right now, or a similar one to this. It may not be this exact one, but it's great because all you do is you plug it in. You can set a temperature limit, a humidity limit, timing, manual, all sorts of different settings. And when it hits that, it will turn this fan on and start ventilating the coop. So you can have it on all the time or certain times. It's great. We love this. We've had it for a few years now. And I highly recommend if you guys have anything or if you need anything. Wow, that's a burp. Sorry. I will put this in the chat here below. So this is a great option if you're looking for something to ventilate. Also, the big trick that we use as well is frozen blocks of water in their big waterers. So as you know, especially on peak days. We also will add a little bit of electrolytes. So you can get the little packets at like the feed store, and that helps keep up their cellular balance. We have like a tub that we've tried a ton of different watering systems with chickens and ducks, and I think we found one that kind of is the best option right now. And what we've took is an auto filler, just the auto filler basically with the float, and put it onto the side of a like a 16-inch flexible silicone like feed bowl thing. And so that way it's easy to dump out, clean out, and put it back. So what we do is we'll toss those frozen like cheap water bottles into that little tub, and that'll help keep water cold so it's not super hot for them. Just keep in mind, if your birds are panting and like holding their wings out, then they're probably way too hot. And so you need to really keep that water cool, provide shaded dirt patches so that they can dust bathe, which helps cool them off as well, and hold off on feeding heavy corn or scratch grains in the afternoon, because when you do that, the digestion actually causes their internal body temperature to raise, which is why we do it during the summer. So, that's question one. Second question comes over. It's about a radio question, and it was on our community tab on YouTube. And that was, you talk a lot about technical communications on the channel. For someone just getting into homestead security, what's the one radio protocol or tool you recommend focusing on first? Well, all right. So thanks for the question. So a lot of people will go out and buy like a cheap handheld radio. And I mean, by cheap, I mean like a poorly made handheld radio. Like the Baofangs I've talked about here before are awesome. They're great. I wouldn't consider them a cheap handheld, just an inexpensive. So they buy that, they stick it in a drawer, and they think they have a comms plan. And the reality is they don't. So the absolute very first step is establishing a standard comms plan with your immediate family or neighborhood group. And before you even look at advanced digital modes or DMR or high frequency bands, anything like that, just get your GMRS or amateur tech license. You get comfortable with your VHF, UHF, line of sight, complex operations, and establish a PACE plan here. If you're not familiar with PACE, it is a primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency channels. So for us, like for example, in our PACE plan, we've had, cell phones are in there, our Meshtastic radios are in there, our Baofangs are in there for GMRS stuff. If my wife needs to use that, she can use it on the GMRS functions and a bunch of different things. So it's that's kind of sets it up so you know what to expect if there's an emergency, and like say we can't get on our phones, which is primary, right? Well, we're going to move to the alternate, which is call on the GMRS radio to see if we can reach each other. Oh, that doesn't work. Go to contingency. Talk on the Meshtastic radio. And that's kind of how that flows out. And it's something to just think about. You can write it down if you want, but it's more so just a thought exercise to understand how you're going to proceed down that and make sure everyone's on the same page. You also need to know exactly what frequency your family switches to if like our primary repeater goes down, and make sure to practice checking in weekly. The gear is really only as good as your muscle memory. And I would say, because it's technically illegal for like your wife to transmit on a ham band, right? On a VHF or UHS ham band. That's why I've programmed into my Baofangs and all the other radios I have the GMRS frequencies, and I've titled them in the radio with the programming. So that way when she could legally use that radio to talk to me on it, and it sounds crystal clear. And that's because I do have a GMRS license in addition to everything that covers the entire family. So just some things to think about there as you move forward. All right, now moving on to our third segment, fact or farm fiction. Alrighty. So this is where we take a widely accepted piece of homesteading wisdom and put it under the microscope. We figure out if it's a legitimate strategy or just an internet myth. And so today's myth is to be a true homesteader or prepper, you have to be 100% self-sufficient and rely entirely on a massive, formal, top-tier setup to make a difference in your community. Well, and let's bust that right now. This is absolute farm fiction, and it's honestly it's a dangerous mindset that keeps a lot of people from ever getting started. The internet absolutely loves to show perfection, massive multi-acre operations, commercial greenhouse setups, and perfectly labeled, pristine survival shelters. You know what I'm talking about? Those like 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 ones that you just toss underground and they work. But listen, real world resilience is grassroots, local, and often incredibly informal. You do not need a multi-million dollar nonprofit layout to impact your neighborhood's security. Take food security, for example. Some of the most impactful and mutual aid initiatives during supply chain crunches aren't formal organizations. It's as simple as an informal neighbor to neighbor little free pantry set up right at the edge of a driveway. No red tape, no corporate overhead, just a weatherproof box where neighbors can drop off extra canned goods, garden surpluses, or basic medical supplies. And anyone who needs them can just grab them. True self-sufficiency is really a myth anyways. Nobody can produce 100% of what they need to survive indefinitely. That's why we do this as a community, because true resilience is built on community interdependence. And it's about knowing your neighbors, identify who has the ham radio, who has the tractor, who has the medical training, and who has an extra row of potatoes. So don't let the perfection of internet homesteading stop you from executing small, impactful, localized projects right where you are. I mean, we are the definition of that. Nothing is that is incredibly perfect at our house, but we are trying and we are working towards that. So it's just something to think about. We always get distracted with trying to be perfect, trying to make everything look amazing, and yet sometimes it just it's not what we need. Sometimes you just need to do your best. So let's close out today's SITREP with field notes. So, all right, this is where we look at the hands-on data and trials happening right here on our small acreage this week. Today, or this week rather, we have a major victory in our ongoing water conservation experiment. So living out here where water resources are at an absolute premium, maintaining a traditional lawn is not only financially draining, it is structurally irresponsible from a prepping standpoint. Every gallon of water we pump has a cost, both to our well and to our off-grid energy resources, and also to our pocketbooks if we have to get water trucked in, which we had to do for this experiment, but it's paying off. But we also wanted a durable foundation or functional ground cover for our homestead that could withstand foot traffic, livestock, and intense heat without turning into a dust bowl. We really wanted something that, that our kids could play on, they could have fun with, play soccer on, things like that, and not be worried about stickers all the time or running around in dust. I want them to be able to run on, barefooted on some grass. And so earlier this spring, we made the choice to clear out our high water zones, of all the grass we tried to use before, even all the cover crops, and plant buffalo grass. Now, for those of you who don't know, buffalo grass is a native warm season perennial shortgrass. Once it's established, the water requirement is incredibly low. It survives on a fraction of the moisture required by standard like Kentucky bluegrass or fescue. It actually possesses a deep root system, which often reaches several feet into the soil, which is pretty crazy. But that allows it to thrive in severe heat and go dormant during extreme drought rather than dying off. The challenge with buffalo grass is it requires so much patience. It takes specific temperatures to germinate, and for weeks, you look at bare dirt wondering if you wasted your time and seed budget. I mean, we had that so much, that feeling so much for the last few weeks up until really this week. So we planted it, I don't know, was it a month ago, maybe something around there, 3 to 4 weeks ago, and nothing, just dirt. We were so disheartened because we've tried everything and we were hoping this was going to be the one that's actually going to work for us, and nothing was coming out. But I am incredibly excited to report that just this week, we finally saw our first green haze of sprouts breaking through the dirt. You can see them here. Doesn't look like much, but we are so incredibly proud of all of these sprouts. They're starting to come out. Yes, there is a bare spot. Don't worry about that. We're working on it. It's a sprinkler issue. But seeing those first shoots take hold after weeks of monitoring ground temperature and carefully like metering out our minimal irrigation is a huge relief. It is a proof of context. So over the next few months, we'll track how it fills out, how it handles the upcoming summer heat spikes, and exactly how much water we save compared to conventional ground cover. So I'll keep taking photos and log the data so I can share the step-by-step process with you all in the future. Make sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube so you get all the updates, and I'll make some posts of pictures in the community tab, and on Facebook I will obviously make posts there on my page. But if you're operating in an arid environment or preparing your homestead for long-term water restrictions, this might be a system you might want to look into. It really just takes the buffalo grass itself takes a normal-ish amount of water, not a ton, not as much as like fescue or Bermuda to get going, right? Which is great also. But the big thing is once you get it growing, it needs very little water to keep growing and stay green, which is great because we just don't have enough. You know, if you've been with us for a while, you know that here on our farm, we've had a lot of issues with water, and we finally got our well pump replaced late last year and this fall. And it's worked great since. The only reason we've had to get water trucked in now is because we're trying to get this done. And it's finally starting to pay off from what it looks like. So that wraps up the SITREP for today, May 16th, 2026. If you found a value in this briefing, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who is building their own path towards self-reliance. And let me know in the comments below I'm just curious so I can talk about it next week. What are your water contingencies for the summer? And what supply chain gaps are you actively working on filling this week? So make sure to keep your eyes forward, keep moving forward. I'll see you guys next week on the broadcast. SITREP